She was always involved in what she was doing, even at the end, even she wasn't doing too much. She was always involved. I always regret she didn't write the last book she was thinking about. It was called In Spite Of. And she wanted to accumulate all the people who had so many difficulties, but in spite of everything. Even Jesus Christ, in spite of, did his job, she would say. And she had a list, so I remember once in her place lining all the people who, in spite of, did this and did that. So it's a nice the beginning of her books. She creates, she has an extraordinary genius, I don't like to use the word genius, but anyway, talent to create. In the first pages, you have an extraordinary atmosphere. If you read even the first page of The Ballad of the Sad Café, you feel the heat, you feel the way, the slowness, you feel the South, you see. The first few pages, to me, are extremely revealing of a book. And with her, it immediately creates an atmosphere.
Yeah, that's true.
Poor little Marilyn Monroe, the only one who was not a great writer. Isaac Dinesen, with Isaac Dinesen, she was very funny. She used to read and read and reread out of Africa. And she used to say that she read only 3 or 4 books in her life. She read all Chekhov. She read Out of Africa. She read Gone with the Wind. What else? And the Daily News. And so she used to say to me when she wanted something, "Oh, you French people are so cultured, you've read everything. I only read this and that, But I must say that Out of Africa was always next to her. She loved Out of Africa, and she loved Isaac Dinesen.
Yeah,
and there's another story I have to tell you, because it's a very good story on Carson. She went, at a certain point, she was still able to travel to England. There was a seminar, lectures from for various writers about sexuality and literature or something like this. And she was staying in a very expensive hotel, and she wanted to change the carriages. And I didn't change her, she was all right there, you see. But we were invited, when I say we, I was in Paris at that time. I was always going, since I was 24, I had decided to live both in Paris and New York, not one, but both. So I always was going between those 2 places. So I was in Paris most of the time, but I went to London when she was in London. And we were invited, both of us, to Dame Edith Sitwell. She had an accident and was in a wheelchair. Was wearing one of those big hats with which you see her photographed by Cecil Beaton. And Carson had brought some champagne, some French champagne. So we drink the champagne before lunch. And Dame Edith, regal on her wheelchair with all kinds of aquamarine, full of aquamarine that she was wearing. And Carson takes her glass and she says, "To the true Queen of England." So immediately, Dame Edith takes her glass and she looks at Carson and she says, "To the First Lady of America." "By the way," says Dame Edith, "how do you call the First Lady of America?" So Carson was always like a little girl in front of Dame Edith. "Well, I don't know, I think Mrs. Kennedy." "Oh, how dull," said Dame Edith. And they went, I should have written, that's all I remember, but they went on and on during all the dinner, back and forth, who would be more witty than the other. It was very funny. So.
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
It's a good story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember.
Yeah.
What do I remember? There were so many things. Some were too sad. What was interesting also was when Tennessee would have a new play, he would come and read it. And we had a little salon full of people, And then she was really like a queen. And he was trembling, knowing how she would react. But it was nice.